Hey guys, True Grit Scott, Bulletproof Saws and BLUESAWS.com. I'm using Bluetooth to try to talk to you guys because I got a little bit of distance between myself and the camera, so hopefully the sound will be okay. Sometimes it seems like there's a lag and my mouth's moving and the words are coming out a little bit off kilter. I'll give it a try because I don't think with the little crick running by you'll be able to hear me if I don't use them. Trying to kill two birds with one stone. I had a couple of 111s that I had to do pre-flights on. It's where we go through them, do some Loctiting, greasing, checking before we ship them out to folks. You guys know we run every saw before we ship it, but this is the extra additional process. So the one on the right here, my right, your left, the one without the bar, I started up and it didn't seem quite right. And I, fiddle with the screws on the carb and start adjusting it. And it's not adjusting where I want it to be. Not where I want it to be, where I think it ought to be. It's just not quite right. I set it down because I'm thinking about it. And I said, you know what? Let me throw a bar and chain on the other one and start that up and see what that's going to do. And that one fired right up. Everything acted normal. Okay, so something's going on. And I get to looking, and it looked to me, and we'll talk about this setup a little bit, it looked like the intake boot maybe wasn't seated quite properly. And the way these are is you don't have a clamp on the intake boot, you have a piece of plastic that pushes down over the boot and holds it to the cylinder. I don't like the design. I'd rather it had a clamp, but this is the way the 200Ts are. So I reseated it real good, started it, and it started tuning correctly. So we'll see if that was my fix. What I'm going to tell you guys, these are tiny little saws with little tiny parts, little tiny screws, little tiny AV. And one of the things that I see frequently with these when they come into the shop is that somebody will get it stuck in a piece of wood, get the bar pinched. They start yanking on it, and you can't yank on these. What happens a lot of the time, not all the time, is that as you yank on the handle, you rip the intake boot. That way that plastic piece clamps it down, you rip it off, and it might not rip it off totally. It might just rip it off enough that you have an air leak. Then the saw starts running super good, like buzzing. You're like, wow, this thing has more performance than ever. Then a couple days later, it blows up on you because you were running so lean. So it's something to be careful about. When you get them pinched, just listen, you could tug on them a little bit, but don't tug on them like you would a 660 or a 460 or a bigger saw. Come on, dog. Don't go nowhere. So that's one thing I just wanted to talk to you guys about. I'm going to run this saw a little bit, and you can see I got a mess here. I got a couple, black birch trees came down, and one of the storms blew over, the root ball sticking up. And it's right across my little creek here that feeds my pond, and it was blocking the water, and this is all flooded, a muddy mess. So I'll probably pause you guys. I'm going to drag a couple of these branches out and then just run them both to cut with so you can see what a stock out of the box 111 looks like. I'm going to tell you the chain that I got on there it looks like somebody was cutting barbed wire fence with it. So I was hitting it with the file, and I started off with the 3/16 file, which I think is what you use on Pico. When I go to filing chain, a lot of what I do is 7/32. So when I get into the 5/32 and 3/16, I usually have to check what I need. So the 3/16 looked like the correct file to me, and as I'm filing, I'm getting the files coming too far under the top plate, or further under than I want it. And when that happens, it seems like it makes buck tooth cutters that dull really quick. They might be sharp for a minute. They're not going to stay sharp for long. So what I wound up doing was I took the 3/16 file, kind of pushed it in there because it doesn't want to fit perfectly, and I filed all the cutters with the 3/16. They needed reprofile. It hit metal. It obviously had hit metal. It was all over the place. And I figured I'd give it a try using what I believe to be the wrong file on it. But what that does is, instead of having a nice, graceful edge on the cutter, I have a very blunt one, almost like an axe, like the difference you'd have between, you know, the edge on a fillet knife, which would be a nice thin taper, versus a very blunt axe cutter. So I ran it a little bit. I didn't think it was cutting wonderful, and I'll probably go back with the correct file, which I believe is the 5/32, and sharpen them again now that they're reprofiled, because reprofiling with that 5/32, it takes a while, and it was cutting under more than I wanted it to. Using the 3/16, I was able to reprofile those cutters very, very fast. And even if it's a little too blunt for what you'd want now, the next time I file it, it'll be fine. The other thing is I didn't have a raker gauge for the LP chain, and I tried using my regular 3/8 raker gauge, which I don't know if that works, because I know I took quite a bit off of those cutters reprofiling it, and the regular 3/8 raker gauge kind of didn't want me to take anything off of those rakers, and I think that they need some swipes. So apparently I can't find a low pro raker gauge, which I thought I had. I could find 325, I could find 404, I could find 3/8, but I can't find a LP or a Pico raker gauge. So I gotta figure that out, or just go willy-nilly as best I can and take them down more. So the chain isn't going to be phenomenal. It's sharp, rakers probably aren't right, blunt edge, whatever. I'm going to pause you guys. I'm going to drag out through this muddy mess some of these branches just so I could run and cut. This isn't going to be any earth-shattering video, guys. It's just me jacking around with the normal day-to-day here. Well, I'll give you a minute of me jerking around. Well, let me drag some of this crap out of here. I'm probably going to bust my ass in this mud, and you guys are going to laugh at me. If I come back and I'm muddy, you're going to know what happened. Okay, guys, I'll show you some of this mess. I got some of that cleaned out of here. So the branches got in the little creek, got filled with leaves, and the little creek was coming, spilling over all the wrong way. So what I think I'm going to do is I'll start nibbling at the top of this, because here's what I'd like to happen. Let's see if I can get over here. There's a little hemlock tree. You could see like right there, you could see the branches that's behind that. Here, let's see, go over here. You can see this little hemlock tree, and I'd like to save that hemlock tree. There's the root ball from when it blew over, and this happens enough. I mean, there's the one that blew over a long time ago, and if you look through some of these woods, I got spots like that all over where this is wet back here, and they get shallow roots, and it flips. But you see that little hemlock there? What I'm hoping to do is if I nibble at these black birches, at some point I'll have enough weight off of that end, you know, maybe somewhere around here, where that root ball will flip right back up and stand up straight again with that little hemlock, and maybe that little hemlock won't die and it'll reseat and live. I mean, does it matter if I'm saving a little hemlock? You see a deer constantly back here. We're jammed up with deer. We have deer like people have white-tailed deer, like some people have pigeons. Anyhow, I'll pause you and I'll run those saws. I'll run the one that had the bar on it for a couple cuts, and then I'll swap. Let me pause you. You don't need this. Probably going to make you nauseous watching me move around. Alrighty, guys. I'll make a few cuts and just trim off some of these branches. Really, the only reason I'm doing this is to run these saws, and I don't run all the saws we bulletproof like this and go out into the woods and work, but because that one wanted to act funny, I wanted to run them a little more, dial them in and play. The other thing is I got a rash of calls from guys that were buying these on eBay, or I'm 90% certain it was eBay off of, you know, a no-name China vendor. And every single one of them had problems, bad carbs, this, that, and the other thing. And I tried, guys want to send me the saws to repair because it's hard to get guys to work on them. The independent shops, those are the guys you want. But a Stihl shop, obviously, they're not too thrilled. So they want, and I can't have guys shipping me saws from all over the country. It's just, I'll do it for our customers, but it's not cost effective for me to, I'd be overwhelmed with work, and then shoot, let's just say $40 to ship one way, $40 to ship another way. Just buy another saw, buy it for me, and it'll be right the first time. So it's hard to justify that. But I got a rash of these with like guys call. I didn't have a rash of them. I had guys calling me with problems. So I even wanted to look at them a little bit harder because it seems like it's an ebb and flow thing. 6-8 months ago, I got a bunch of calls on it, and I just started getting calls on it again. So that's what even tweaked me more with that other one not running, is like, oh, wait a minute, maybe they sent me some of these. I really think those were seconds and customer returns, but that's another video, guys. Yeah, I don't know how this is going to work. Oh, I'm yelling, and I think my headphones are the one recording me. You guys might be able to hear me. Again, guys, the goal is just to run these two a little bit before they go out. I'm going to pause this. I'm going to swap bars. I'm in a mud pit. Don't want to fall. I'm watching that bounce a little bit, and I think I need a lot more weight off of it for that root ball to tip back up, but I'm going to be aware that if you've never cut on a blowdown tree with a root ball, a lot of guys get surprised the first time they do it. And they, you know, they're going cutting the wood, and it's wonderful because it's off the ground, and you could go nuts and bang, 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 buck up logs right there after you get through the, you know, the canopy. And all of a sudden, whoop, and it goes back up. And when it goes up like that, if you were sitting on the end of it, when somebody got the weight off of it, it would catapult you 50 feet. 50? Maybe not 50. It'd catapult you 20, 30 feet, though. So it's got some momentum. You want to be careful because I can't imagine getting hung up on it, having a branch grab your shirt and it throwing you through it'd make a great video. You guys would love it, but it probably hurt a little. I'm going to pause you. I'll swap out and we'll go from there. Okay guys, I swapped the bar over. I did a little fiddling with the screwdriver, and I guess we're gonna see how we do. I'm just gonna trim a little bit more. Again, this isn't a how to trim trees video, how to do anything. A couple things I'll tell you. If your 200 clone tune starts getting funny, make sure you got that ring on your intake boot seated real good. The next thing, there's more than one version of carb for this saw. I can't remember which is the good one, which is the bad one. The bad one's real bad. The good one I've had run for a long time. On a lot of the custom saws, we switch right to an OEM carb because I think it's best, and I don't like rolling the dice on the good and bad carbs, but there are good versions of carbs that Farmertec has on these. Why they ever send a bad one's another question. But the good one, I mean, I've had those good for, 5-6 years, and it's just been a good carb. So jury's out on that. Probably need to do a little more research on my end to really nail down how to differentiate the two carbs. I might even have an old video from a few years ago where I go into it. I'm almost certain I made a video on it. I can't remember. It was a million saws ago, so I forget things. I'll run this, and it probably needs a little more fiddling. I just got it running. Isn't it great? Well, now you saw something interesting. Seemed fine on off the throttle, and I realized I'm in the way as I'm cutting. I'm not set up perfectly, but it is what it is. And then all of a sudden, like the throttle's sticking almost. I tried to push on the carb boot just to make sure it's seated, but I'll rip into this a little bit. What I'll probably do is I'll grab another saw out, go through the whole bulletproof on that one, make sure it's correct, send that one out. That way I could sit on the bench and play around and figure this one out, and maybe that'll make a neat video. Hey, here's something that's wrong with one out of the box. And I have fuel, so it wasn't like I was running out of fuel. Anyhow, guys, that's just a quick video of just some of the things that go on. I don't know if you guys are into this, if it's interesting, just to see some of the day-to-day stuff. Anyhow, guys, True Grit Scott, Bulletproof Saws at BLUESAWS.com. Thanks for watching. Stay safe.